Welcome back to the deep dive. So, usually when we sit down here, we're digging into a system you can see, something tangible.
Right.
We talk about global supply chains or the mechanics of a recession, things you can at least point to on a map or a chart.
Things with clear causes and effects.
Exactly. But today is different. We aren't really analyzing a system. It feels more like we're analyzing a haunting.
That's the only way to describe it, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're looking at a ghost story, but it's not about a haunted house.
No.
It's a story about a haunted time. It's about this specific, almost suffocating atmosphere of the modern world.
And the source for this deep dive is a collection of essays by the philosopher Byung-Chul Han. We're focusing on one in particular, a text called The Time of the Festival, or Celebration in a Profane Time.
And anyone who's read Han knows he doesn't exactly do light reading. He's a diagnostician. He diagnoses the pathologies of our age.
Yeah, but this one felt different. When I was going through the source material, I honestly didn't feel like I was reading philosophy.
What did it feel like?
It felt like I was reading a horror script. A really chilling one about how we, as a society, have somehow managed to kill time itself.
It's because he's touching a very, very raw nerve. I think everyone recognizes the feeling. It's Sunday evening, maybe 8 o'clock.
Ugh, the Sunday scaries.
Exactly. And you look back at your weekend. You went to that brunch. You went to that event. You hit the gym. You caught up on the show everyone's talking about. You were busy. You were productive, even in your leisure.
Right.
But you're sitting there and this dread washes over you and you realize, I'm not rested. I haven't celebrated a single thing. I'm just exhausted. And now the whole cycle begins again.
That is the hook. That's the paradox right there.
Yeah.
We have never had more entertainment, more parties, more so-called events.
The calendar is packed.
But Han's argument is that we have never been less capable of a true celebration. We've lost the ability to access what he calls festival time. And because of that, we're trapped in profane time, a time without divinity, without real pauses, and ultimately without meaning.
And his central thesis is, it's terrifyingly simple when you boil it down.
What is it?
We have dismantled sacred time systematically. We've ripped it out and replaced it entirely with working time.
And you don't just mean the time we spend at the office, right?
Not at all. I mean the very way you perceive your existence. Even your sleep is a form of work now.
You sleep to be a better worker tomorrow.
Your play is work. Your relationships are networking. We've managed to turn the entire world into a single vast labor camp.
But, and this is the twist that we really, really need to sit with today, it's a labor camp with no guards.
Or rather,
the prisoner and the guard are the same person.
That is the mission for this deep dive. To try and understand how we became both the victim and the executioner in our own lives. We need to dissect why our existence feels like this frantic race to nowhere, and why we've become, in Han's absolutely devastating words, too dead to live and too alive to die.
Too dead to live and too alive to die. I swear that phrase has just been looping in my head since I read it.
It sticks with you.
We are definitely going to get to that undead section later, and trust me, it is even darker than it sounds. But to understand the zombie, you have to understand the environment that created it.
Right. You have to start with the disease, not just the symptom.
And the disease isn't time itself. We have to start with the anatomy of time. And Han does this incredible linguistic excavation in the text that it completely changed how I look at my watch.
It all starts with a distinction in language. It's fascinating.
Sure.
Han looks at the difference between two fundamental ways of moving through time.
Yep.
And he uses these German and Polish concepts from the source text to explain it.
Okay.
So on one side, you have this concept of przewymieniania.
It's a mizajanie. It's a Polish word.
Yes. And it translates to something like passing away or fleeting.
Okay, so przewymieniania. This sounds like linear time. This is me walking to the grocery store.
Exactly. Visualize that walk. It's the perfect analogy. You're at your house. Your goal is the store. The space between your house and the store, that walk, it's just an obstacle. It's a distance you have to overcome. If you could snap your fingers and just teleport to the store, you would.
100%. I'm trying to minimize the time I spend getting there.
Because the walk itself has no intrinsic value. It's a cost. Yeah. You pay that cost in time to get the milk. And the second you have the milk, the walk is, well, it's dead. It passes away. It's gone forever.
That's the time of production. That's work time. You do X to achieve Y. The moment Y is done, X is discarded. It's just used up.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's the logic that governs almost everything we do. But Han contrasts this with another concept, obchodzenie.
Obchodzenie.
And this word is so interesting. You can translate as celebrating or observing, but The literal physical meaning of it is to walk about, to circumambulate.
Walking around, not walking to.
Exactly. Think of a religious procession circling a holy site, or people dancing around a bonfire at a midsummer festival, or even just you strolling through a garden with absolutely no destination in mind. In that kind of movement, where are you trying to go?
You're not going anywhere. You're just there. You're in the circle. You're in the garden.
Yes. The goal is the movement itself.
Okay.
You're not trying to finish the dance and get it over with. If you rush to the end of the dance, you'd completely ruin it.
Right. That would defeat the whole purpose.
That is celebrating. That is abjadzani. In this mode, time stops rushing forward in a straight line. It stops passing away. It becomes deep. It becomes a space you can actually inhabit rather than just pass through.
And this is where Han brings in the philosopher Hans-Georg Gadamer, who uses this beautiful, almost, I don't know, an archaic-sounding word for this, tarrying.
Verweilen, to tarry, to dwell, to linger. I love that word.
Where to?
Gadamer argues that the very essence of a festival, and, the essence of art too, is this learning to tarry.
This is so hard for the modern brain to do. I mean, I feel this struggle constantly. If I go to a museum, I'll stand in front of a masterpiece, and I swear within 10 seconds, my brain is going, okay, process that. What's next? Where's the gift shop? I can't just be with the image.
That's because you're applying the logic of privajanya, that logic of passing away, to an experience that requires tarrying.
I'm trying to consume the painting.
You're trying to consume it like it's a task on your to-do list.
Yeah.
You want to check the box, saw the Mona Lisa, done. But you can't consume a festival. You can't truly consume art. You have to dwell in it. You have to let it wash over you.
So the big aha moment here is that the festival, this act of tarrying, it's like a finite window into eternity.
Yes, but we have to be careful with the word eternity. It's not eternity in the sense of, a really, really long time.
Right, not just endless linear time.
It's eternity as a different quality of time, a quality of time that doesn't decay. It's a pocket of time that stands outside that frantic rush toward death and production.
Okay, but here's the problem, right? Han's whole point is that we've lost the ability to access this kind of time. And the reason we've lost it is because we've lost the divine.
Exactly. This brings us to another thinker he quotes, Karl Karenyi.
Karenyi.
And Karenyi's insight is blunt. It's uncompromising. He just says it flat out. Work is never a festival.
Which seems obvious on the surface, but our entire corporate world is built on trying to deny that. We're constantly trying to blend them.
Oh, absolutely.
We have fun work events, mandatory fun. We have celebratory product launches, team-building retreats that are meant to feel like a party.
But those are all counterfeits. They're ghosts. Karenyi argues that a true festival, a real moment of abchadzini, requires a divine element.
What does he mean by divine exactly? Does it have to be religious?
Not necessarily in a dogmatic sense, but it requires a connection to something higher than mere utility, something sacred. And without the gods, without the sacred, we're left with only the profane.
Let's define profane properly here, because I think most people hear that word and they just think of, swearing or something dirty.
Right, but that's not the original meaning. In Latin, profanum has a spatial definition. It refers to the area that is in front of the sanctuary. Profanum.
In front of the temple.
Exactly. The temple, the sanctuary, that's the sacred space. It's set apart. It's untouchable. It operates by different rules. The area outside, the common ground where people trade and argue and conduct their daily business, that's the profane.
So the sacred is, by definition, the zone where work is forbidden. It's a sanctuary from production.
And Han's terrifying argument is that modern society has essentially bulldozed the temple. We've completely removed the sanctuary. There is no more sacred space.
So the entire world has become the space in front of the temple.
The entire world is profane. There is no time and no space left where work is truly forbidden.
That explains why we bring our laptops on vacation. That explains why we answer work emails on Christmas morning.
Of course, because there is no sacred time anymore to protect us from it. It's all just time. Time that is available for use, for optimization.
And this leads to what Han calls a devastating reversal of our own humanity. He quotes Plato's laws. And this is a quote that really, really hurts the modern ego.
It does.
Plato writes that humans are, quote, puppets of the gods.
Puppets. We hate that idea, don't we? We want to be the masters of our universe, the captains of our souls.
But the context is everything. Plato says our greatest dignity, our highest purpose, isn't found in our labor. It's not in our wars or our economics. He says our greatest dignity is found in play.
in sacrificing, singing, and dancing for the gods.
Being useless to the economy, but useful to the divine.
For the ancients, play was the highest form of existence because it was a way of mimicking the gods themselves. The gods don't work, they don't have to earn a living or justify their existence, they just are. When we play, truly play, we get to participate in that divinity for a short time.
But Han says we've completely reversed this hierarchy.
We have. We work like slaves, and that includes the so-called masters of the universe, the CEOs working 100-hour weeks. We all work like slaves, and we have utterly forgotten how to play like gods.
We've forgotten how to play. That hits hard because we think we have fun. We have a multi-trillion-dollar industry dedicated to fun. But Han makes this crucial distinction. He says, we don't have festivals anymore, we just have events.
And that brings us to the next section, the horror of the event. And the horror, as is so often the case with Han, lies in the etymology, in the words themselves.
Right, so festival comes from festus, which is related to what's holy, sacred, celebratory.
Yes, but event comes from the Latin eventus.
Which just means, what's it, an occurrence.
A happening, something that eventually takes place. An event, Han says, is just a pattern of eventuality. It has no substance. It's hollow.
I feel like event has become the buzzword of our entire lives. Join us for this special networking event. It's a huge sales event, the cinematic event of the year.
And what do all those things have in common? What characterizes an event?
Well, it's fleeting. It happens, and then it's over.
It's isolated. And most importantly, Han says it lacks a binding force.
A binding force. Unpack that for me. What does that mean?
A true festival binds a community together. Think of a village celebrating a harvest or a national holiday in the old, deep sense of the word. You feel connected to your ancestors who did this before you. You feel connected to your neighbors doing it with you. You become part of a we. The festival creates a union, a community.
But an event, what does an event do?
An event is for the I. It's for the isolated individual. You go to a music festival, which, let's be honest, is almost always just a music event, and you are there primarily to consume the experience for yourself.
You take the photo for Instagram to prove I was there.
Exactly. You consume the vibes, you consume the food, you consume the noise. It is fundamentally a transaction between you and the organizers. There's no deep binding community being formed.
It's a ghost.
It is the ghost of a festival. It mimics the outer form, people gathering, loud music, lights, excitement, but the soul, the sacred core is completely missing. There's no tarrying. You are just consuming time.
And what's scary is how perfectly these events are structured to fit inside. Work time.
This is the totalization of work. This is the part of the essay that really made me rethink my own vacations. Han's argument is that work time have become a monster that has devoured festival time.
Because even our rest has become instrumental.
Totally. Why do you sleep?
To recharge my batteries. To have energy for tomorrow's work.
And why do you go on vacation?
To avoid burnout, so I can come back and be more productive.
Exactly. You do not rest for the sake of rest itself. You rest for the sake of work. The pause, the break, has been completely colonized by the logic of production.
It's like a pit stop in a Formula One race.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
The car stops, but it doesn't stop to admire the scenery or just it stops to get new tires and more fuel so it can get back on the track and race even faster.
We are a society of pit stop humans. We're just constantly refueling for the next lap.
And this destroys the sanctity of what he calls the interval. An interval, a true break, should be a break from the system. But we've made the interval part of the system. It's just another tool for optimization.
Which is why Han is critical of both extremes.
Yeah.
He critiques accelerationism, but also the slow living movement.
Yes. This is such a key point.
I have to admit, I was surprised. He critiques slow living. I thought that was supposed to be the answer to all this.
Not if the underlying narrative remains the same. Think about it. If you practice slow living and mindfulness, just so you can be a more focused, less stressed, and ultimately more efficient worker, you're still in the trap.
You're just optimizing your productivity in a different way.
Han says the problem isn't the speed. It's not about going fast or slow. The problem is the narrative of time itself.
It's the map, not the speedometer.
Beautifully put. Whether you sprint toward death or you walk slowly toward death, you are still moving in that same straight line of profane productive time. You are still passing away. You aren't celebrating. You aren't tarrying.
So we're just optimizing our march to the grave, which is a terrifying thought. And that leads us directly to the mechanism of how we keep ourselves marching. Section 3, the internal labor camp. This is the part that reads like a psychological thriller.
It really does. And this draws heavily on Han's broader analysis of the shift from what he calls the disciplinary society to the achievement society. To really grasp the horror of the present, you have to understand the horror of the past.
Okay, so the past was the disciplinary society. This is like the world of Foucault, factories, barracks, prisons, madhouses, the 19th and early 20th century.
Yes, it was a world of walls, of boundaries, a world of no. A world defined by the word should. You should follow the rules. You should obey the foreman. You should not cross this line.
The authority was external.
Completely. The boss was a guy you could see. He had a face. You could point to him. And because he was outside of you, you could resent him. You could hate him. You could dream of organizing with your fellow workers to smash the machine.
But we don't live in that world anymore.
No. We live in the achievement society. And in this society, the word should has been replaced by the word can.
Yes, we can. Nike's just do it. Unlock your potential.
All the slogans of our era. And on the surface, it sounds like freedom. It sounds like liberation from the old, oppressive structures. But Han argues this is a new and far more insidious trap.
Why?
Because we've moved the boss from the factory floor into our own heads.
We've internalized the surveillance. We've internalized the foreman.
You are now the prisoner, and you are the guard.
That's the internal labor camp.
In the old disciplinary system, the guard with the whip forced you to work. But you only worked until the shift was over, and then you could, in theory, be free. In the achievement society, you force yourself to work. And so the question becomes, when do you stop?
You don't. You never stop. Because you can always do more.
The word can has no limit. The word should has a limit. Once you follow the rule, you're done. You've fulfilled your duty. But can. You can always make more money. You can always be fitter, leaner, stronger. You can always learn a new language. You can always optimize your side hustle.
It's the horror of unlimited potential.
It's the tyranny of total freedom. You are faced with this infinite horizon of possibility, and the only thing stopping you is you. And because this command to achieve comes from within, because it feels like your own desire, like self-realization, you cannot rebel against it.
How do you stage a revolution against yourself?
You can't. You just grind harder and harder until you eventually break.
And this is what Han calls self-exploitation.
She argues it's the most efficient form of domination of slavery ever invented. Because the slave doesn't need an external master with a whip anymore. The slave whips himself, and he does it in the name of freedom and achievement.
And the inevitable result of this is burnout.
Burnout isn't just being tired from working too much. Han is very specific. It's the pathological result of a voluntary war that the self wages against itself.
Oh.
It's the psychic collapse of the soul under the crushing infinite weight of I can. And notice the shift in the dominant mental illness of our time. In the disciplinary society, the main neurosis was repression.
Wow.
People were sick from holding back their forbidden desires.
But today, the dominant illness is depression.
Why depression specifically?
It's the illness of the achievement society. Because depression is fundamentally the feeling of I cannot. But it's a very specific kind of I cannot. It's the exhaustion that comes after the I can. It's the subject screaming, I can no longer be able. It's the total depletion of the self that has been grinding against its own unlimited potential for too long.
So we're a society of depressed, self-exploiting laborers, trapped in a camp that we built inside our own minds. And what do we become in this camp? What is the end product of this process?
We become the undead. Section 4.
And this is where the tone of the essay really shifts, from a kind of psychological thriller into full-blown body horror. Han starts talking about the survival society.
Right. We are obsessed with survival. We have turned health with a capital H into a new religion.
And Han's logic here is that because we have killed God, because we've lost any grand narrative of an afterlife or a higher spiritual purpose, then biological life is the only thing we have left. It's the last value standing.
So we cling to it desperately. We must preserve it at all costs.
He calls it naked life. He uses the Greek term zoe.
Zoe
is life as a mere biological fact. It's your metabolic function, your heart beating, your lungs are breathing, your cells regenerating. It's distinct from the other Greek word for life, bios.
And bios is what?
Bios is the good life, the narrated life, the life of politics, of action, of story, of meaning. Han says we have systematically sacrificed the bios in order to preserve the zoe at all costs.
We're just trying to keep the machine running no matter what.
And to keep the machine running forever, we have to try and eliminate all negativity.
What do you mean by negativity?
Pain, risk, suffering, and most of all, the visible signs of death and decay.
Which brings us directly to the zombies. The fitness zombie and the Botox zombie.
These are such powerful, chilling images. Think about the Botox face. What is it, really?
It's smooth, it's unblemished, it looks, ageless.
But what else is it? It's also frozen. It's paralyzed. It cannot express deep suffering. It cannot show the lines of laughter or grief that make up the history of a person's life. It is a face that refuses to die, but in doing so, it loses the ability to be truly, expressively alive.
Because to be alive is to be vulnerable. To be alive is to age.
To be alive is to be in a constant state of becoming, which also means moving toward death. The Botox zombie tries to stop time on its face.
And the fitness zombie tries to stop time in the body.
Yes, the body becomes this high-performance machine, but it performs nothing of substance. It runs on a treadmill to nowhere. It lifts heavy weights only to put them back down again. It's a closed loop of pure biological maintenance, disconnected from any real-world purpose.
And this is where we get that line again. We are too dead to live and too alive to die.
Let's break that down. We are too alive to die because our medical technology, our safety protocols, our entire health-obsessed culture can keep the biological heart beating for an incredibly long time. The Zoe is strong. But we are too dead to live because true living, the bios, the kind that involves festivals, passion, risk, sacrifice, and tarrying, that kind of life requires an expenditure of life force. It requires wasting energy for no productive purpose.
If you're a pure survivalist, you don't waste energy. You hoard it. You conserve it.
And a hoarded life is a dead life. It's a life that's no longer being lived. Han connects this all the way back to Aristotle to show just how far we've fallen as a culture.
Right, Aristotle's distinction between the merchant life and the free life.
For Aristotle, the merchant life was the life of utility, of business, of necessity, making money, securing food and shelter.
And for the Greeks, that was considered the lowest form of life.
It was seen as unfree. Because if you have to work just to eat, you are, in a sense, a slave to your biological needs. You're not truly free to pursue higher things.
So what was the free life?
The free life was everything that began where necessity ended. It was the life of the poet, the philosopher, the citizen engaging in politics. And the defining characteristic of this free, noble life was its uselessness.
Uselessness. We use that word as an insult today. You're being useless.
I know. But for the ancients, uselessness was divine. God is useless. God doesn't produce GDP or meet quarterly earnings targets. God just is. To be free is to do things simply for their own sake, not for some other productive end. But today,
nothing is allowed to be useless.
Nothing. Even our hobbies have to be monetized as side hustles. Even reading a novel has to be justified as self-improvement or building empathy. We have totalized the merchant life.
We're all merchants now. Merchants of our own souls, selling every moment of our existence to the god of utility.
It's an incredibly bleak picture. A world of undead merchants, smoothing out their wrinkles while their souls are burning out from self-exploitation.
So, is there a way out? Han does offer a path. It's not easy. It's not a 5-step plan, but it's there. Section 5. Profanation.
This is a tricky concept, so we need to be really precise with it. Han borrows this idea from the contemporary philosopher Giorgio Agamben.
Profanation. We need to reclaim that word.
We do. So we established earlier that the sacred implies separation. A sacred object or a sacred time is separated from common use. It belongs to the gods. You can't use it, you can't touch it, you can't buy it.
Okay, so profanation means bringing it back into common use.
Yes, but in a very specific, liberating sense. Agamben defines profanation as returning something to free use. It means taking something that has been separated and controlled by the system, whether that system is religious or, in our case, capitalist, and setting it free.
The best analogy he uses here is the child. I loved this part of the text.
The child is the ultimate profaner. It's a beautiful idea. Imagine a father, an executive, brings home a very important business contract. It's a serious object. It has economic utility. It belongs to the system of production.
Or a soldier brings home a weapon.
Right. A serious object from the system of war. And what does the child do with it?
If the kid takes the contract, flips it over, and draws a colorful monster on the back, he takes the weapon and uses it as a prop in a game of make-believe in the garden.
Exactly. The child completely deactivates its utility. He ignores its economic or military purpose. He turns the serious object into a toy. He profanes it. And in doing so, he restores it to free use. It becomes a tool for joy, not for work.
So Han is saying we need to learn to do this to our own lives. We need to profane the world of work that has consumed everything. We need to learn how to turn work time into playtime.
We need to find ways to deactivate the machinery of compulsion that's running in our heads. And there's this incredible story in the source material that illustrates this perfectly, the Greek blackout.
Yes, this is like the big cinematic moment of the whole essay.
It is. It refers to an incident, I think it was during the height of the financial crisis in Greece. The source describes this moment when the national power grid failed. The lights went out across the city, the computers died, the screens went black.
The whole event of the neoliberal economy just stopped.
The absolute necessity of production was suspended. It was forcibly paused. And what happened? Did people panic? Did they riot? Did they despair about lost productivity?
No.
No. The source says they just tage. They poured out into the streets. They lit candles. They brought out wine and food from their homes. They started talking to their neighbors. They started singing.
The blackout created an impromptu festival.
A spontaneous festival born from the failure of the system. Think about the symbolism of that. The collapse of the grid, the failure of capital. That's what allowed the festival to emerge from the darkness. The compulsion to achieve vanished. And in that vacuum, real celebratory life rushed back in.
That is such a haunting image. The lights of the system go out, and the light of the people finally shines through. It was a glimpse of upshadzani, of tarrying, of dwelling created by the failure of the event.
It proves that the human capacity for celebration isn't dead. It's just buried. It's suppressed under the constant hum and noise of the grid. But we can't just sit around and wait for the power to fail. We have to find ways, big and small, to create that suspension ourselves.
But the environment we live in is designed to prevent that at every turn. And this leads to the final suffocating environment that Han describes: the museum and the department store. Section 6.
Han is so critical of how we treat our own culture today. He talks about the death of art.
And he makes this key distinction between cult value and exhibition value.
Right. In the past, art had cult value. A statue of a god wasn't made to be gawked at in a museum. It was often hidden away in the darkest part of a temple. It was part of a ritual. It had an aura, a power, because it was connected to the sacred and it was often unseen.
But now we take that same statue, we put it under fluorescent lights in a white room, and we call it a museum.
And Han calls museums columbariums. Do you know what that is?
It's a tomb, a place where you keep funeral urns, a place for ashes.
He calls them mausoleums. He says we lock art away in a state of timelessness. But it's not the living eternity of the festival. It's the sterile timelessness of an object preserved in formaldehyde. It's preserved, but it's necrotic. It's dead. It's just there to be looked at, consumed by the eye, and then immediately left behind for the next thing.
And the really scary part is that we've started to treat ourselves like museum exhibits.
Se produire, that French phrase he uses. It means to produce, but when it's used reflexively, it means to appear or to show oneself, to put oneself on display.
We are all the curators of our own little personal museums. Our social media profile is just a gallery defined by exhibition value.
We're constantly maximizing our own visibility. But Han says something so profound here. He says, where everything is exposed, nothing can truly happen. A real festival requires a threshold. It requires a secret. You have to step out of the ordinary profane world and into the sacred space.
But as everything is transparent, if our whole lives are on display 204/7, there's no inside and outside anymore.
And the whole world becomes one giant department store.
A transparent department store. Everything is visible. Everything is for sale. Everything has a price tag. And Han mentions that chilling marketing concept, lifetime value.
CLV, customer lifetime value. It's a metric that reduces a human biography to a spreadsheet of potential future purchases.
How much is this human worth to our company over the course of their life?
It's the ultimate commercialization of existence itself.
And Han describes this world, this department store world, as being incredibly loud, but at the same time completely silent.
It's loud with the noise of communication pings, notifications, everyone broadcasting, everyone performing. But it's silent of any real meaning or narrative. He calls it a madhouse. We are drowning in things and trash, but we are fundamentally homeless.
Homeless in a department store.
Yeah.
That's the image. You can buy anything you want, but you can't dwell anywhere. You can't tarry in the aisle. You have to keep moving, keep consuming.
Exactly. It's a world of total frantic movement, but with no destination and no rest.
So we've painted this picture of a world that is frankly, terrifying. We're self-exploiting zombies in a transparent department store, mistaking marketing events for genuine festivals.
It is dark.
Mm.
But you have to remember, a good ghost story is meant to wake you up, not just scare you.
So what is the solution? After all this diagnosis, how do we exorcise this ghost? Han ends with a call for a festive home.
Damadurni, a festive home.
And let's be really clear about what this isn't. He's not talking about the kind of mindfulness that's sold to us today.
No, absolutely not. Han is deeply critical of that. Meditate for 10 minutes so you can be a more focused and productive employee. That's not the answer. That's just a patch for the burnout machine. It's another form of self-optimization.
The real solution is to restore the sacred, to begin the difficult work of turning the department store back into a house.
A house is a place where things have dignity, not just prices. A house is a place where you can close the door, where you can have secrets, where you can be unseen, where you can tarry.
It means reclaiming the useless.
It implies a kind of politics of inactivity. And I don't mean laziness. Laziness is just the flip side of the work coin. It's still defined by work. I mean an active inactivity. The intense, useless focus of deep play. The solemnity of a ritual that achieves nothing in the profane world.
It's about realizing that we don't have to be the guards in our own internal camps. We hold the keys. The door has been unlocked the whole time.
We have to fundamentally reject the idea that our worth as human beings comes from what we produce. It comes from our capacity to celebrate existence itself, to waste time divinely.
So here's the final provocative thought for everyone listening. I want you to actually look at your calendar. Look at the week ahead, all the appointments, all the events.
And ask yourself honestly, are you circumambulating? Are you dancing? Or are you just marching in a straight line from one task to the next toward the end?
When was the last time you did something that was truly beautifully useless? Not to relax so you could work better tomorrow, not to learn a new skill to put on your resume, but just to be.
If you can't remember,
Yeah.
then you have to ask yourself that really hard question Han is forcing us to confront. Are you living? Or are you just surviving?
This has been the deep dive into Byung-Chul Han's The Time of the Festival.
We hope you find some time to tarry.
Thanks for listening.